A big victory for one of our clients here at the ACLJ. Dad, this is a big moment. Obviously, Garret O'Boyle has been a name that our audience may have heard if they've been following our show for the last number of years. So why don't we give a bit of a backstory and then lead to what ended up being a really resounding victory for Mr. O'Boyle.
Well, it is a huge victory, Logan, as you said, and Garret O'Boyle had served with distinction at the FBI for a long time. And when he brought to light concerns that he had about statements that were being made and misstatements being made to Congress, he went through the regular system of how you report these things. And as he said, he became a whistleblower, and then the FBI crushed him. They crushed him. They crushed his family. He lost his job, his livelihood, his home. The stress on the family was unprecedented. We joined in the litigation as counsel and litigated the case with the Vanell Law Firm and with Empower Oversight, two good friends of ours that we've worked with before. And the end result, and I want to say this is, again, a thank you to all of our ACLJ members and especially our ACLJ champions. He got justice. The end result, we just filed a brief at the Federal Court of Claims very recently, but the case has now been resolved, and the resolution includes all back pay, security clearance, position back, damages, some of his attorney's fees, and he's been totally reinstated, and his record is totally clean. So this was not only a vindication, Logan, but a tremendous victory for the American people, and especially for Garret O'Boyle, a dedicated member of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's a huge win. We can't underscore it enough. It's significant. The impact is huge. It sends a message to leadership within the FBI, and I got to thank Kash Patel and Pam Bondi for getting this done.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, he has been a name we've heard for a long time, and of course, a voice we've heard on the air. Hopefully, we'll hear from him again. But there was that question of whether he was going to want to even return back to service after all of this. And I think that shows really the character of this man, that he says, yeah, I want not only my clearance back, I want to be back doing what I've been called to do. I think that's a big moment. Should we play a clip for people to see, or should you want to save that for the next one?
We should save it for the next while we have your dad on here. But one thing I wanted to also point out is that the ACLJ took Mr. O'Boyle on as a client over 2 years ago. So we retained him in July of 2023, and just now getting this resolution. And a reminder to people that things he was blowing the whistle on were the school board threat tagging within the FBI, the way that they were inflating domestic terrorism cases to misuse resources instead of focusing on the job of the FBI, and also the improper targeting of religious and pro-life individuals. A lot of what he was blowing the whistle on at the FBI had a lot of the ghosts of the IRS scandal, where Lois Lerner and her group were targeting religious and conservative Americans because of their beliefs and trying to silence them. And here we had a whistleblower, and we were able to fight for justice for him, where, as he and his words said, the FBI tried to crush him because of calling out the FBI for what they were doing. How big of a win is this in terms even of the history of the ACLJ as we talk about these 35 years of victory?
Well, look, I mean, the significance of this can't be overstated. I mean, here you had an individual whose life was turned upside down, and now with the stroke of a pen, he's back and reinstated. He's part of the FBI, which may mean we don't hear from him again. I'm not sure about how that'll work because he's been totally reinstated. But there's another aspect of this, and I think this is important for people to understand, and that is, you talked about the IRS targeting scandal. There at the top of the IRS, on their tax-exempt division, you had Lois Lerner, who was targeting conservatives. Here, remember the FBI, we had that memo that was the radical Catholic churches. Remember that one? And that was and Jim Comey just kind of blew it off. Well, the people like Garret O'Boyle knew exactly what was going on in a lot of these issues, and that's why they were silenced, because they had access to what was really happening. And the result of what happened was outrageous. The end result here, and by the way, 2 years sounds like a long time, but in litigation, that's pretty quick. So this was a great resolution. I'm very pleased with the legal team that we had on this. Was excellent. Our colleague Jane Raskin, who worked with me on President Trump's cases, was part of the team, and of course our team in D.C. I mean, we just had a great team on this, and the end result, and this is what I want to focus on, Logan, for a moment, as we talk about people supporting the work of the ACLJ. The end result of this was not only a vindication for Garret O'Boyle, but also a message to the FBI they can't do this stuff again because there's consequences to pay. And that is, people keep saying, when is it going to happen? When it's going to happen? Well, it just happened. And again, you got to be patient, but it just happened. We had a great win.
Yeah, it is a big win. I want to make sure we don't lose track of how big that is. It's been something we've been fighting for many years. And of course, to have that really full victory. And there is a call coming in, and I kind of want to take, because I'm not sure of the exact details or if it really even matters at the end of the day. Let's go to Wendy, who's calling California on line 1. Wendy, go ahead.
Yes, my question is, the people responsible for putting this man and his family through this, will they be investigated and held accountable like the actual individuals who made those decisions?
Yeah, Dad, I'll kick this to you to kind of give an understanding of how that all works in terms of the law and what the people who actually did this. I know a lot of them were told what to do by people even above them in the Biden administration.
Yeah, so here's how that works. So, the internal employment law, human resources rules of the FBI are different than in civil service generally. So the individuals that violated the law and violated the rights can be removed from their positions. They can be fired. I'm not sure, there's probably not criminal liability here, but there are consequences. The government's having to pay Garret O'Boyle damages as part of this settlement. And the individuals that are responsible for it will, if not already held accountable, they will be. There's no question. I mean, they violated his rights, and for that, now, as Logan said, it may go much higher up than his individual supervisor. Well, we probably will not know the details of that because that's an internal matter, a personnel matter for the FBI to handle.
And as we remind people, once again, we retained him in 2023 in the summer, the ACLJ, and then we're in court starting just weeks later on this. So it went through court, and the Biden DOJ and Biden FBI were fighting back. We're fighting back not to have to do what has just been done. It did take a change in leadership as well to come to this victory. And I think to Wendy's call as well, there are different people in those leadership roles that would have had controls over these mechanisms. As we know, Christopher Wray is no longer FBI director, and those deputies are no longer there. That it also is refreshing that change like this can happen, but it still takes us being in court, keeping this alive in the courts for that long to be able to get to this resolution.
To be clear here, Garret O'Boyle contacted us through Empower Oversight, and he retained the ACLJ as part of the legal team about 2 years ago. And this was actually moving at a pretty fast pace. We were at the Federal Court of Claims filing briefs very recently before the case got resolved. But remember, the IRS case also got resolved successfully when President Trump took office in 2016. So leadership matters, perseverance matters, having the right lawyers and government affairs team in place matters. And that's happening because people that are listening to this broadcast are supporting the work of the ACLJ. And as we close out the matching challenge this week, your support of the ACLJ is critical now more than ever. Was a campaign a couple of years ago. That's true. 35 years of victory. That's true. Let's get 35 years more.
And Garret O'Boyle posted on social media, he put, I also deeply want to be thankful to Jay Sekulow, the ACLJ, for their tireless representation and unshakable belief in my case. Without these courageous allies, I would not have been able to withstand the government pressure or continue the fight for justice. Of course, that is what he posted on social media. Again, a pretty powerful statement from our client, Garret O'Boyle, whistleblower, who now fully reinstated, back pay, all the things that he requested, security clearances. This is what happens. Again, it's a couple years of work, but it's worth it every time.